Good afternoon, this is Sean Golding with Golding & Golding, here to discuss the basics of how non-resident aliens are taxed on ECI, effectively connected income, and how it's different than FDAP. FDAP is the most common type of income generated by non-resident aliens, fixed, determinable, annual, periodic. You live outside the U.S., you're not a U.S. citizen, you're not a legal permanent resident, you don't meet the substantial presence test, you want to invest in some mutual funds, you open a Vanguard account, you invest. They're going to withhold 30% unless certain treaty elections are made. Generally, you can make that on a W-8BEN or identified on a 1040NR down the line if you have to file. Okay, that's the general rule. The rule is a little harsh. If you're a non-resident alien and you're investing in the U.S. And you're generating effectively connected income through a trade or business, then the rules are a little different. You generally will get taxed at the progressive tax rates that a U.S. person would be taxed at. Well, someone may say, well, why would someone want that? I'm high net worth. Well, here's the difference. Under FDAP, you can't take any of the deductions, right? If you qualify for a reduction in withholding, that's generally going to be a treaty benefit. Under ECI, you can take all the deductions that you would otherwise take. Well, not all, but a lot. So let me give you an example. Peter wants to invest in the United States, so he decides he's got a wad of cash available and decides he's going to buy a rental property, okay? You buy that rental property, and then you have a renter in there. And that renter is paying $3,000 a month in rent. Now, here's the problem. Under the FDAP rules, that rental income is considered FDAP, and so the renter, not that this happens in real life, but for purposes of the presentation, the renter is supposed to withhold 30% and make sure that gets to the IRS, right? That's a huge withholding. Now, for the investor, he's like, well, what about all these deductions and things I have, right? I had to pay the broker and maintenance fees and property tax deductions and depreciation. At the end of the day, I'm not generating near that much. That 900 withholding is absurd. And so that person can then make an election for that income to be treated as ECI, effectively connected income, instead of FDAP. So now investor can take all the deductions for the real estate, at least, that they would otherwise take, bring it down, and so the tax liability would go down significantly. So it could be very beneficial in some situations. Common types of investments for ECI. A lot of times, non-resident aliens will invest in franchises, at least out here in California. It's a set business, right? You just kind of set it and forget it, invest it, hire some people, things of that nature. That can turn into an ECI situation. But side note, got to be careful. You start coming to the U.S. too much, even on a B1, B2, you could become subject to the substantial presence test. And for our high net worth clients around the world with lots of income, that could become a tax disaster. Real estate flipping is always common, and real estate rentals is common. So just to go through the tax implications again, for ECI, you're generally going to be taxed at the progressive tax rates. You're somewhat limited on the deductions. You don't get to take all the wonderful deductions that someone would take if they were a U.S. person, but for the most part, at least as to that type of income and the related expenses and deductions, you can take those as well. If you're out of compliance, you haven't properly done your taxes, and you're a non-resident alien, you're somewhat limited on the scope of disclosure programs, because if you didn't have to file a U.S. tax return under a lot of the programs, they don't want you to submit 1040NRs and things of that nature. But you can usually still qualify for reasonable cause if you're going to get dinged with some penalties if you got a 5472 issue, things of that nature. We have lots of free information on our main website and our sub-websites. You can always reach out and schedule a reduced fee initial consultation if you think it's appropriate. Again, my name is Sean Golding with Golding & Golding. Thank you for your time. Enjoy the rest of your day.